Well, who is not? Global Capitalism, Its Fall and Rise in the 20th Century by Jeffrey A. Friedman. Globalization was a choice, not a fact. For decades, global capitalism had seemed unchanging in its basic outlines, but World War I showed it to be a series of points in a long and tortuous trajectory. Globalization unraveled so quickly that participants never had a chance to stop the collapse. An international order whose economic, political, social, and cultural components had defined the world for decades before 1914 disappeared completely. Globalization is still a choice, not a fact. It's a choice made by governments that consciously decide to reduce barriers to trade and investments, adopt new policies toward international money and finance, and chart fresh economic courses. In June 1815, 300,000 troops converged near Brussels for the battle that was to end the Napoleonic Wars. The forces of Britain, Prussia, Austria, Russia, and the Netherlands gathered against the French to determine which great power would control the world. By midnight on June 18th, the French defeat was clear. Across the Channel, 2.5 days later, news of Wellington's victory reached the cabinet in London, 200 miles from the battlefield. Napoleon was defeated, and the age of British supremacy began. The British and Allied victory in the Napoleonic Wars was the culmination of 300 years of absolutist monarchy and of the economic order that supported it. Europe's great powers organized themselves to battle over territory and subjects, sending their armies into round after round of dynastic wars. The region's rulers supported their military machines with an economic system called mercantilism, which they used to manipulate the economies for military advantage. After 1815, the combination of British supremacy, French defeat, and a power balance in Europe calmed the continent's incessant conflict. The subsequent period has gone down in history as the 100 Years' Peace for Great Power War nearly ceased. Europe's sovereigns used mercantilism to exploit colonial markets and strengthen royal dominance. Sometimes the ground's own armies oversaw the extraction of natural resources, gold and silver from the mines of South America, for example. Mercantilism enriched the crown, which then used those riches to build up military force. Wealth is power, wrote the English philosopher Thomas Hobbes, and power is wealth. The mercantilism system opened much of the world commerce, but that commerce was regulated by military might for the benefit of the mighty. The system's intellectual supporters could justify the exploitative economies of the system because rulers used some of the accumulated riches to protect subjects. At the time of the Napoleonic Wars, mercantilism was already beginning to weaken. British industrialists introduced a flurry of technological innovations that revolutionized production starting around 1750. Once Britain, the world's most important economy, discarded mercantilism, other countries faced new choices. The policy problems of the mercantilism era, military alliances and monopolies, gave way to the great debates of the 19th century about whether and how countries should join the global market. As Britain liberalized trade, many of its customers and suppliers followed suit. In 1860, France joined Britain in a sweeping commercial treaty that freed trade between them and drew most of the rest of Europe into this direction. As the German states moved towards unification in 1871, they created a free trade area among themselves, then opened trade with the rest of the world. By the late 1800s, telegraphs, telephones, steamships, and railroads had replaced horses, carrier pigeons, couriers, and sails. The railroad is the most significant advance in land transportation since the time of the Greeks, fundamentally changed the speed and cost of carrying cargo overland. With the new transportation technologies and the triumph of free trade in Britain, the world of militarized national mechanism gave way to a truly international market. The old order, preserved by force of arms at the Waterloo, was gone and replaced by a new global capitalism. Markets, not monarchs, were the dominant force. The Battle of Waterloo was fought on Sunday, 18th June 1815 near Waterloo in present-day Belgium. The French army, under the command of Napoleon, was defeated by the armies of the 7th Battalion Coalition. The gold standard became the most powerful organizing principle of the global capitalism during the 19th century. 4 centuries before 1800, most countries used gold and silver money interchangeably. Merchants preferred silver, copper, and other cheaper metals for local businesses and reserved the more valuable gold for international transactions. In 1717, Sir Isaac Newton, master of the mint, standardized the English currency and put the country on a gold standard in practice, if not in theory. Silver continued to be legal tender, although it was not used. The United Kingdom was virtually alone as a gold monometallic country. It deviated from the gold standard only once, temporarily during the Napoleonic Wars. Almost all other countries were bimetallic, using both gold and silver.